So if you love something, you set it free. We all know this quote, right? And I think we all agree with the fact that love and ownership are not the same.
No.
At least in theory. But are we really living like that? Or are we telling ourselves that our possessiveness is just a natural part of our love? I think one telltale sign that you're being possessive is jealousy, the green-eyed monster, our favorite emotion, right? And jealousy pops up in situations where, you know, your homie might be hanging out with somebody that you don't necessarily vibe with, or your significant other is talking about their work spouse.
And that's not a real thing.
Yeah, whatever that is. And, or like even in parenting, when your child is now just joined at the hip with the other parent and you're left feeling like, well, what about me?
I know all about that.
So in this episode, we're going to dive into love and freedom, and we're going to talk about the balance of power and freedom in relationships. We're going to dig into monogamy, get into a little bit of parenting, and just so much more. I'm so energized about this conversation.
Yeah, this is going to be a great conversation.
Love don't never fade, it's forever. I swear it was born in the wrong era.
Welcome to the More Love Podcast. I am Vida Harris, and this is my baby daddy, Stephen Harris.
What's up?
And we believe that love is more than just a feeling. In fact, it is not a feeling. It's really the actions that we take that bring us closer to ourselves and to the people around us. And what we want to do with this podcast is we want to build a community of healing people who are ready to do the work with us and to show up bigger and better in love. That is the More Love mission.
That's amazing. Let's hop into it.
Yeah, we have a really good conversation. Steph, I feel like you dropped a lot of gems in this conversation around just like your personal journey from being dominated to being the gentle, beautiful soul that you are today.
Thank you. And I learned some cool stuff about like about your beliefs around fear and love and parenting and just like how you feel about these things that I've never heard you actually verbalize before.
Yeah, we got deep. I feel like it's really dope that like this conversation, we know what we're going to talk about, but then we go so deep, we end up really learning so much about each other. And hopefully y'all will learn something about yourselves too when you watch this conversation. I'm excited for you to watch. Let's hop on into it.
All right. So let's break it down so that it can forever and consistently be broke.
Let's do it.
Since we're talking so much about love and freedom, one of the things that we said we touch on is power.
Yeah.
In a relationship. Do you think that power and freedom can coexist in a relationship?
I don't know. I don't know if power and freedom can coexist. I think I'm interested in talking about like, let's define our terms. I feel like we're big on this, right? Yep. Like something in me wants to make sure that we're defining what do we mean when we're talking about power.
Yeah.
Because in some ways there could be power. Like for instance, if I want to make this like big career move and I want to move us across the country, do I have the power to get you to like uproot yourself and our family?
Yeah.
I think yes.
Yes.
But is that the type of power that we're talking about when we're talking about power as opposed to freedom?
Yeah. So I think yes.
Yeah.
I think we're talking about all kind of power. And when I thought on this subject, that was one of the big things that came up was the power to influence.
Yeah.
Like you have the power to influence me. You don't have the power to control me. But in some relationships, that does happen. right?
I think a lot of people, when they think about the power that they should have in a relationship, they're very much thinking about how they can control someone's behavior. So I think you're right. Let's have that conversation, because y'all be out here thinking that you can control your partner, your friends, your mama. Now, I got an issue with that. I actually...
I'm trying to control my mama.
I called myself out on that one. But like, yeah, because that is a thing.
Yeah.
So can power to control someone's actions and freedom exist in the same relationship? I don't think, like, just based on like the definition of each term, if you don't have the autonomy over your own actions because somebody else does, then you don't have the freedom. It can't be both. Yeah.
My thought was when freedom ends, it's when power begins, and vice versa. So you can have them both in a relationship, but not at the same time.
Oh,
you can't have them both. And I feel like what ends up happening is you think you are free in a relationship until the other person decides to like exert their power. And then you have to decide like if you're gonna take that, go along with that, or if it's not for you. And I think we are so scared of, I think maybe it is like, maybe we're just scared of being alone. That we will end up giving somebody the power to control us when they don't deserve that.
Yeah. Something that you said was that we think that we have freedom until someone decides to exert their power. Was there anything specifically that came to mind of like when you're in a relationship and someone has decided to exert their power over you?
So not for me personally, but I saw a post about a man having a dress code for his his significant other, right? And that came to me as she's walking out the house one day wearing something that she's comfortable with, and he is probably on the couch like having attitude face and like and mad about what's happening. And
it's like manipulation.
It could be a little manipulation, or he could just be like, "Hey, you're not. Where you going in that? Yeah, where you think you're going in that?
Yeah."
And so I think that the woman in that situation more than likely felt free until the man decided to like exert his dominance and control in that moment, and then you still are free, right? Because you still are free to choose whether you want to accept the control.
Yes, that's what I was going to get at. Is like he still can't actually control her. He doesn't have the power to do it. Obviously, there's lots of nuances there around like who has the power to control and like manipulation and all that, but just like at a more surface level, I feel like it's almost like a bid for power.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, okay, here's what I want. And you get to say, am I going to give you the power in this moment? Again, there are nuances, but you do get to say, am I going to give you the power in this moment? And I think especially in relationships where it's a long-term relationship, there have been several bids and there's like a pattern that you need to bid less and less.
Yeah.
Until
it starts to get established.
Somebody just internalizes it. And then that's the like true power. You don't even have to like say the thing, and the person is just like operating how you want them to.
Yeah. I think that's a good step into talking about dominance culture.
Yeah. Break that down, baby. Because you pulled that when we were having the pre-discussion for this, you brought in dominance culture. I feel like context clues, I can kind of figure it out, but what exactly is it?
Yeah. And so that came from what would bell hooks do? What would bell hooks say, right? and she definitely was saying like love cannot exist in a dominance culture. And in America, the culture, it's a dominance culture because it's all about competition. It's all about superiority, and it's all about
ownership.
Control and ownership.
Yeah.
Yep. Like throughout everything. And then we have this talk sometimes. I say men deal with each other different. And I think a good way to define how men deal with each other is that dominance culture. Like I say, men might not say something to one another because at the end of this argument, somebody dies, or somebody gets their butt kicked.
Yeah.
And it's different with women. They don't operate the same manner of dominance culture, but there still is dominance culture there. And so,
you know what? That made me think of something as you were saying that, like think about men and dominance culture. So this is like kind of on topic, but also not. But what it made me think of is there was like a meme going around where it was like men are afraid that women will laugh at them. Women are afraid that they will get murdered.
Oh, wow. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
I know it's a little dark,
it's levels though.
But it makes sense because like that dominance and just thinking about like the things that women go through, sexual assault for an example, it's never about sex. It's always about dominance and power. Yeah. And so like that's, I think one of the ways that shows up in American culture, especially.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's baked into us at such a deep level. And I'm talking about men right now, but this same statement could be true for men and women. Like it is baked into us from birth. And when we started touching on this topic, like I found myself in a place of, okay, if I don't control and dominate, then what do I do? Because you are only taught as a man one way to be, at least for the most part.
Yeah.
And where do you feel that void? What are the opposite things? And it is equality and like communal well-being.
Yes.
And just working with one another. Equality, community. What was my other one? Let me get my note. Right? So let me not be trying to guess off the top of my head.
I bet it rhymes.
It doesn't.
One thing about my husband, he go make something rhyme.
Yeah. So the other one was cooperation.
Yeah. That's big, actually. You said equality, community, cooperation. I think that out of those three, cooperation specifically is something that kind of like counterweighs dominance of like, wait, there doesn't necessarily have to be like one winner. This doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. We could cooperate to work toward the greater good.
Yep.
I think something that came up for me too was I think that domination is a very like self-centered feeling or concept or whatever. Absolutely. Right? Like you want things to happen the way that you want them to happen. And I think that with love, like being in a state of love and connection and community, part of what you have to realize and do, you have to get small. You have to understand that you are like one part of this really big thing, right? And that's true in relationships too. When I think about like our relationship, when we first met, and even way before we met especially, I was very much a control freak. And it gave me a lot of anxiety wanting everything to go my way. And one of the things that helped me to love you better was to understand that we were a unit and we had ebbs and flows, and there were, gaps here, but the other one complements it. And like understanding that everything doesn't have to be the way that you as one person conceive that it should be. Yeah. And understanding that on a like community level even too, I think that would help get us to like a more cooperative space.
What I noticed about myself and now thinking about us was it is our innate way of being. Yeah. So even though like you had your control issues and I had my control issues, when we sat down and were like, these are going to be the principles for our relationship, the one thing that we put in there was we're on the same team.
Yeah, we did.
And I remember you reminded me that on several occasions because a lot of times when it's argument time, then it's me against you, and it's really easy for me to take the path of me against you instead of we're on the same team. And that little shift in the moment of an argument or disagreement, it can take things a whole other route. And in love, in relationships, and in your community, but if you are walking through this path of love and you are not sure what to do, you replace dominance with support. I think you will get so much further as a unit.
Yeah.
It will feed you even more than just getting your way.
Yeah, because that's not actually the best outcome. Getting your way is not actually the best outcome. Nobody is happier because you become hungrier for more dominance and power. Like that whole power struggle is like nobody actually wins, right?
No one wins. No one wins when the family feuds.
When the family feuds, word. But like harmony, I think that's what you're getting at.
Yes.
It's harmony.
Yeah.
That's what we want to seek. And I'm trying to think like I always want to reel us in when I feel like we're getting very like coachy on this. Like, so I'm just thinking like in the real world, in one of those scenarios that we were talking about where you might get jealous. Let's say your friend is hanging out with somebody that you don't actually prefer.
Yeah.
And you might feel like jealousy or possessiveness. What do you think that looks like to pause and be supportive or cooperative instead? Like, what does that actually look like?
I think it is stopping and being like, that person also deserves to experience these good things about my friend as well.
Ooh.
Like, and my friend has enough inside of them for them to spend time with that person and spend time with me. And like, they let them be a blessing to everybody. And maybe you even call and show support and like show interest in what that thing is about, and not in a like way to just be eavesdropping or like be gossipy, but like to really show support for your friend because they have another friendship, and like saying, hey, yeah, what's happening? What's going on there? I'm super interested.
You see, I was with you. I was like, I can try to be this righteous, but I don't know. Here's what I think I could do. Here's what I feel like I have the bandwidth to do in a scenario like that. I liked that you said trust. Like trust that your friend has the resources to figure it out. Because I feel like what happens with me, it's again like wanting what I want to happen. And so even if I am being protective, I'm also being possessive in my protectiveness, right? And I was telling you the other day that often in my circles, I'm the first one to like sniff out somebody who's just not quite right. And sometimes that can create waves. But what often also happens is that everyone else eventually figures out that like, this person ain't it. Now, I don't actually experience jealousy, but I think that the reason why I don't experience jealousy is that thing that you said. Like, I trust that you're going to figure it out. You have the tools to protect yourself. You got this. But what I don't have is like, how's that going?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's fair. I think it's fair to like know your limit. That's there.
That's my boundary.
It's like, no, I'm not. I don't care what y'all doing over there, but more power to you.
Yeah.
And I choose to replace my thoughts of jealousy with the thought that, hey, I see why this person want to hang with my friend, because my friend's the shit.
Yeah. Okay, I have one more question for you. One other thing that I love about you is probably like top 3 reasons why we got married. You're not a dominating man. I don't know if that's how you identify, but like that's not something that you really, I didn't experience that with you personally. And I'm curious how do you not dominate? Like, what is it that you just haven't ever before? Was it what someone taught you, or what?
Yeah, if I had to just trace back, like everything go back to childhood. And thank you for the compliment, because I actually do take that as a compliment that I'm not like a dominating man,
Yeah.
I think about that with this podcast. I think there's a lot of dominating men that probably just will not relate to me in the way that I see the world, but I'm here for the ones who will.
Exactly.
But if I had to take it back to childhood, the first thing that pops up is the fact that I was dominated. So I was the younger brother, and my big brother was no fun as a kid. And so like his whole role in our relationship was the one to dominate. And so it would just make sense that when I got out into the world, I didn't want to be like that. I also saw my mom in abusive relationships with men who were very dominating.
Yeah.
And like I saw the fights, I saw the black eyes, and like I remember being a kid and consciously deciding like I would never, ever, ever be one of those men. And so that is probably very much still with me whenever I go out into the world. And I also appreciate that about myself. When I was thinking through this topic, I was like, yeah, I'm glad I'm not one of them.
You're not.
There is a side of me that is conditioned by society to want to dominate in times, or even like looks at myself sometimes as less than, or like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do because I'm not being dominating in moments where the society tells us that we're not. But if I trust myself, if I'm just trusting myself and I'm doing what's natural to me, then it's not that. I'm very cooperative. I'm learning to be more supportive, but I'm definitely very cooperative and very into equality and like a communal well-being. I
love that so much. It's so funny. While you were talking about that, I started thinking about why was I such a like dominating person? Like I not just dominating in my personality, but also when I think about how ambitious I became about a decade ago and just wanting to like have everything. I mean, like charts for my income, wanting the biggest title, wanting to get the most responsibility at work so I could be the most important person, like all around wanting to dominate. And I think that part of the way that I got there was when I was little, what I experienced was chaos. And what felt safe to me was control. And so I think I took that on as like a personality trait. It's something that made me feel safe a lot, to be able to control everything. And so it got to the point where I'm even like controlling my life in spreadsheets and everything's just fine. Everything's just right at my fingertips. I get to control everything.
Right.
And that's not sustainable. First of all, don't do that. I mean, it got me through a lot, but like not sustainable.
Yeah.
But I think what this relationship taught me, I think being with you and realizing that you are the butterfly who needs to be free, and loving you so deeply and so dearly and wanting you to be as happy as you can be. I think I really had to like look at myself and say, how are you going to operate in another way? Because controlling what this man does is going to dim his light.
Oh,
you
that's
know?
awesome. It's so funny that I have trouble thinking of you as dominating.
Because I've been doing that work, baby.
Yeah. Word. And I was like, really? You saw yourself as dominated? But once you started to explain like how, in what areas of life especially you were dominating, that made sense to me. And I don't know if I've said this on the podcast, but I've had to adjust to new, not dominating Vida. If you're not dominating, then what do you think your main trait is now? Like, how would you describe yourself now? I'm sure there's a ton, but like, is there one that rises to the top?
That's a good question. Like, what replaced the domination? I don't know yet. Like I actually feel like I might still be in the process of replacing the domination. Like I still think I'm doing that inward work of figuring out like, okay, what do I do when I'm not in control? I recently did a consult with a new therapist to like do all of this work to like get in my purpose and all that stuff. And I think what I'm trying to figure out is, okay, if I'm not dominating and controlling everything and I'm just in harmony, what does that look like?
What does that look like? I think your strongest trait is your supportiveness. And even when you were in your more dominant space, you were still always very supportive to the people around you. Like, that's one of your love languages, is like, if I mess with you, I'm gonna support whatever it is you're doing and be your number one cheerleader.
Yeah, and maybe that means like more space for that, because I love that. I've been leaning into that. I love that. So maybe that is what that means.
I've been noticing that. I've been noticing how you do it for me all the time. But I've been noticing like how you do it for like the other people in your life now. And like, you're just being more conscious about showing that support.
Yeah. Matter of fact, it's Friday. I need to do a Laura check-in today. Okay. So I'm going to move us to our next topic, because I feel like that was thoroughly broken down.
Yeah. Broke it.
We broke it. Okay. Next topic we had is monogamy a power play? Can there be freedom in monogamy? So obviously this is specifically about romantic relationships.
In romantic relationships. So funny. I think monogamy doesn't have to be a power play, but I think it is often used as a power play because it's not brought up at the beginning and like agreed upon and committed to. And I think if you do that, then if you change your mind later down the line, then it should be okay that you either part ways or you accept it.
Absolutely. But I also feel like, and I feel like this is not a popular opinion, I also feel like it's monogamy and freedom can't exist in the same place unless there is an out, because it needs to be your choice. Yeah. Like I don't, in an ideal world, you just want to be monogamous, right? And so I don't really like a world where you're just being monogamous despite not wanting to be that. And so for me, the way that I reconcile that is to say, at any point, if you feel like monogamy is not working for you, let's talk about it so we can figure it out.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not freedom.
Yeah. Well, you ain't got that freedom in our relationship.
This I believe.
Yeah. So, like, we saying the same thing.
Okay.
When I say that it should be agreed upon, because yes, you need to go in wanting to be in a monogamous relationship, and both of y'all need to be there.
Yeah.
And I don't own you.
Facts.
And you may change your mind in the future. But the agreement we made and the commitment we made was based off of monogamy. And so then there is a whole other thought process that's got to happen.
Because you don't have to stay if I don't want to be monogamous. That's part of it. Like,
and if you mean bringing no more penises around here. And
dominance culture.
Domination. Yeah, domination. So, but that's the boundary that I've made clear, and I don't know what amount of soul searching would put me in a place where I would be okay with other penises.
Well, that's the thing though. Like, I'm sorry to cut off your other penis rant, but like, I don't see myself not wanting to be monogamous. I have jokingly called myself a Steph asexual in the past. So I don't see myself not wanting to be monogamous. So I don't have a problem with you saying like, no, there's not an out to the monogamy, because I am committed to staying monogamous because that is important for our commitment, and also because I really don't see myself wanting out of monogamy. But so the question remains, though, am I free?
Yeah. Yeah, you are.
Yeah,
because there can be life outside of us if the monogamy needs to now look different.
Yeah.
And I'm in the same boat. I committed to monogamy because I want monogamy.
Yeah.
And I don't see a world where I am wanting to invite somebody else into our relationship or like even like expand my feelings and emotions out to somebody else.
Yeah.
We're gonna never say never, right? But like maybe I do an ayahuasca trip and like everything changes.
You're like,
and
it's different now.
Yeah, my brain is rewired. But as it stands, like that's my commitment I made and the agreement I made, and I think I know where the boundary lies. And yes, you're free. Yeah. You are free. And though it may hurt to know that you want something else or want somebody else, you are free to do that. And then I now have to take that pain and decide what I want our future as a unit to look like.
Would you Will and Jada me? Would you like be like, well, let's separate? It's actually beginning to make sense to me of like, let's separate. You do your little exploration. What's the thing that is it Amish people who do the thing where they like go out into the world and they like act a
wow
out, and then they're like, all right, I'm back.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm Amish again. No more Wi-Fi for me.
Bring out the butter churner thing. But like, do you think you would do some version of that of like, okay, we're not gonna get a divorce, but we're gonna pause on this?
As it stands, I'm not there right now. I'm not gonna rush into divorce, but as it stands, I don't get it. And if I was faced with the reality though, like things could change when you're actually in the situation, faced with the reality of losing the person that you love completely, or allowing them to do something else and still maintain the unit that you have. Like, okay, I do get it. And so,
but we're not there.
Thank the goodness.
So I feel like our conclusion on that was, yes, there absolutely is freedom in monogamy when it's your choice. It's something that you chose.
Yeah. And you both are choosing it. Yeah. And you like, keep it real with each other.
Yeah. Keep it. That's so important. Keep it real with each other. Okay. Last topic.
All right.
We've talked about all of these rules of relationships and freedom. And I feel like we kind of kept it in like friendship, romantic relationships, but let's shift to a whole other dynamic, and that is the parent-child dynamic. And do the same rules for freedom apply to the parent-child dynamic? Should there be freedom?
So
I want you to go first.
This is a place where we had a lot of turbulence.
Oh yeah,
because you were a free kid. I was not a free kid.
I was too free. And I think you were too restrained.
And I was too restrained. Yeah. So, knowing what I know now, living the life I live now, yes, your child deserves freedom, and autonomy. Now, where you have to strike the balance is the fact that you're responsible for them, and so you do have to set up some barriers and guardrails because they don't have the full sense to not run off of the road, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you have to control them.
Right.
And you don't have to use dominance.
That's where I was about to go of like, but does that necessarily mean that there needs to be dominance in your relationship? Like, I think about people who feel like their children need to fear them in order to be compliant. And I think that's dominance. I'm not judging y'all, okay?
No.
But I do want to examine that thought of like, I think that what happens often as parents, and this is especially exacerbated if you working all the time, you already stressed out, you poor, you got baby mama, baby daddy, family drama, all that stuff, is you need your kid to comply immediately.
Yeah.
I I don't have time, or at least I don't feel like I have time. I don't have the mental bandwidth to sit with you and explain the why and all of that. And I think that people see dominance as a shortcut to that end result.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think that what we really should examine is, does the approach justify, does the end justify the approach? Like, does that end result really justify your kid feeling fearful of you? Is that actually a healthy part of love?
I was going to ask you that. Do you think fear has any place in the parent-child relationship?
Absolutely not. I'll go back to what Bell Hooks said, right? Like, love cannot exist where there is dominance or something like that. Mm-hmm. Where they can't be in the same space. It's harmony that breeds love. And so if love is the will to positively affect someone's spiritual growth, fear is not positively affecting their spiritual growth. Fear might keep them safe. It might do all of those things, but is it loving? I think the answer just has to be no.
Man.
I know. I know you wasn't going to like it.
Yeah. And I know that you feel this way.
Yeah.
And you know that I think just a little bit of fear is a good thing to have in there. Being a dad of a child that's probably going to be 3 to 4 inches taller than me.
Definitely.
The first thing that pops up in my head is, I got to go ahead and instill a little bit of fear in him now.
My uncle was saying that the other day.
I was like, Joey,
y'all got to break him now.
You got to go ahead and do it now because his little hormones going to change. He's going to start smelling himself. And one day he's going to feel like, going to challenge dad.
It's going to happen.
Like, it's going to happen whether he has that little bit of fear or not. Yeah. But at least that little fear might slow him down enough that I could get on in there and just show him what needs to happen.
Yeah.
But I do not want my child to fear me. And in his 2-year-old toddler self, if he looked at me afraid that I'm about to hit him, jumped because he thinks that he's about to get hit, that would break my heart.
Yeah.
And I told you the story about me and my nephews and like how I grew up in a house where you get hit. That's just what happened. The bigger boys beat up the younger boys.
Yeah.
And so I carried that culture on to them. And it was all fun and games for a little while until like I was not actually trying to be aggressive towards them. And I would notice they would jump and be scared. Like they're just coming downstairs to get a snack. Yeah. And then like they're now having to guard their grill because I might mess them up. And like that put me back into the place of being the child and like how that felt. That's not what I want. And so I told them like, no, I'm not going to hit you anymore. Not for play. None of that. I'm not going to do that to you no more. And so you don't have to jump or be scared because it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And same thing for my little boy. It's all fun and games. And I laugh and talk about it a lot, but I don't actually want him to fear me. I don't want him to be afraid of me. I want him to look at me as a safe place and a soft place to land.
I'm proud of you for that. That's big. That's really big, actually. I want that for him too. I understand how you get there,
yes.
especially when you've grown up in it. It's all you've ever seen. It's how you were raised, and you're like, I turned out just fine. And so I get how that happens, but I do appreciate that you have kind of examined it and just seen that doesn't have to be the path. There is another path. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know how it's gonna turn out as a grown man. Like I hope it all works out. It will. But I think it's coming from the right place. It's coming from a place of love. And then his personal choices that he ends up making as a grown person, it's not up to me no more. And I just have to know that I did my best. Yeah. And I can know and be confident that I did my best if I came from that place of love. Rather than be like, man, I shouldn't have, pushed him so hard or like tried to make him afraid of me or like, So I don't want that regret. Yeah, I like that too. And I feel like when I think about what is the benefit of having freedom in a parent-child relationship, what I think about a lot is like him as an adult when I'm not there to instill fear in him, or when he has to logically think himself out of a situation. And that fight or flight, that's not a good replacement for like reasoning. And so I think that a lot of times what at least I observe is that people who were brought up on fear do a lot of things impulsively and can't really explain why they're doing it. And that's not their fault. But when fear is dominant in your household, you don't really learn how to pause, observe, assess, and strategize. You don't get that learning because you're working off of like fight or flight. I can't do this thing. And that's not the optimal way to operate in the real world.
Yeah. I like that. I feel like I learned something about like the way you think on that subject.
Thank you. I'm so glad.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that.
Thank you. I'm glad you could receive that.
Did we break it down?
We absolutely broke it down.
Yeah.
And let us know what you thought too. We talked about a lot of controversial things here. So
yeah, interested to hear your thoughts.
Absolutely. All right. So we broke that down. Now it's time for us to go into a little segment we like to call the walk. And you might have thought to yourself, that sounds really similar to the read from the read. And that's because it is directly bit off of them and we love them and we're inspired by them.
For sure.
And we thought that for this podcast, we could use this moment to really like share our personal experiences with y'all. It's dope to philosophize, but like, what does the work look like?
Yeah.
This is the walk.
For sure.
So would you like to start or would you like me to share what I'm working on?
I'd like you to share first.
Okay, this is not going to be surprising to you because we've been talking about this, but I want to share with the people.
Yeah, it's for you.
So I have acquired a new therapist. We haven't actually started doing the work yet, but I'm really excited that I'm going on this new therapy journey with a new therapist who I purposely chose a Black woman who feels like someone I would want to be like associated with or like close to in life so that I can kind of work through my issues with connecting to women or like fearing rejection and like really like facing my fear of loving and being safe with women.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that. And the work that we're doing, I think, is directly related to this like more love journey because it's all about self-love, which is always like where it starts.
That's where it starts. Yeah.
It's so cliche, but it's just so true.
Cliches are cliches for a reason.
Yeah, for a reason. And so one of the things that she asked me, which I thought was amazing during the consultation, was if you didn't do this work with me, what do you see your life looking like in 5 years? And after I thought about it, I realized that what I'm trying to stop is complacency because I'm actually really happy where I am, but there's still some noise in my head. There are still some old voices that like they've worn out their welcome. Like it's time to get evicted, and I want that noise out, or I at least want to learn how to navigate that noise so that I'm not blocking myself from being my full self, showing up in love in the best way that I can as a wife, as a mom, a friend, a daughter, like all of those things.
Yeah.
I want to like unblock it and clear the path.
I love it. We talk about therapy a lot on this show. When's the last time you were in therapy?
Man, when was the last time I was in therapy, babe? I think the last, oh my God. You knew what the answer was?
No, I don't know the exact answer. I know it's been a while though.
Last time I was in therapy, I was pregnant with Saint.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I was having crazy nightmares every night, and it was causing debilitating anxiety, and my job was stressing me out. And the nightmares were actually about the same voice that needs to get out of my head. I was in a emotionally, mentally abusive relationship, and this man that I was in that relationship with was coming into my dreams. And he was in your body.
I remember this.
Yeah, and I'm talking about like waking up in bed, sweating, panting, like all of that stuff. And it felt like it was a manifestation of all of the unpacking that has to happen for you to be like a healthy, loving parent. And so I was in therapy asking for help so that I could get a leave of absence from work because I needed time to like work through that. But I never processed that whole experience of that relationship. And I think that is why his voice is still in my head. And I think blocking me from my full potential of loving myself and everyone else. And so that's the work that we're going to do together.
Love it. Love it. I didn't know those two things tied together in that way.
Really?
The reason I asked was because I wanted people to kind of grasp the monumentalness of the fact that you are getting a new therapist. Like you didn't just have one last week and you decided to change. It's been a couple years now, and you're a therapy advocate.
Yeah.
So to know that like it took you a while to go from this place to now this place, and why you're excited about it, because it's been that gap in between.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted people to get the magnitude of that experience.
I appreciate you doing that. I actually didn't realize that it tied in together. I thought you was doing that on purpose. I gave you a lot of credit, but I didn't realize that they were tied together. And it's not as if I have not been trying to find a therapist over these last couple of years. There was even a point where I went to one therapist and she was like, honey, this isn't what I do. She was like, you need a trauma specialized therapist. And that in and of itself was like discouraging. But this go round, when I looked at psychology now, I went ahead and clicked that button of like trauma specialty to make sure that whoever I'm working with is like well equipped to help me process the things that I've been through. So I'm excited, and she just seems lovely, and I think we're going to do amazing work together, and hopefully you see the results of it too.
Yeah, for sure. I know I will.
Yeah, you will.
I know I will.
You see before I do sometimes.
Ditto.
All right, what's your walk, baby?
So my walk here, tying our walks together. Your last therapist was there. The previous therapist was there to fix something.
Yeah.
This time you're using your therapist to strengthen something. And I've been in therapy for years and years, same therapist, and we've taken breaks. She's gone on maternity leave, came back. And then this past session, we were talking, and I was like, well, nothing needs to be fixed today. Like, that's why I went to therapy in the first place, to fix a bunch of stuff. And I was like, nothing needs to be fixed today. Everything is good. And she was like, well, that's great. Let's take this session to go deeper on the things that are right and the things that are good, and acknowledging these things. Because I told her, well, I did this thing that's out of my comfort zone. I did this thing that we talked about. I did this and this. And she was like, perfect. Let's take the time to go deep on that and what that feels like, and to really cement those things into your consciousness. And so my walk from that day forward is to make sure that I am stopping to take the time to acknowledge myself for the good stuff that I've done. The times that I took myself out of my comfort zone, the times that I was kind, the times that I exhibited the traits that I actually want future me to like exhibit.
Yeah.
And
like you were doing the thing.
I was being that person.
Yeah.
That is so powerful. And I've never done that. I always beat myself up because I'm doing something wrong.
Yes.
And I always think that it is maybe too self-centered or egotistical to stop and think about the things that you are doing right, but it is not.
No, it's absolutely not. It's a part of it. It's like, it's I think that especially for you, it might resonate if you think of it more like gratitude for yourself.
That was absolutely one of the phrases that she used, was to like take a minute and have some gratitude.
Yeah.
About
You've been
doing
doing
that.
work.
Thank
You've been
you.
doing work. Like we had a conversation about doing hard things and making that like our home culture. And you took that very seriously.
Yeah, I value you so much and your opinion, and I'm one of those people that does things based off of fear. And so I'm doing my best to remove that, but I will have irrational fears around losing you. And so to hear you say, even though I know you may believe this thing, to hear it come out of your mouth and be able to then reference it in my brain later on, whenever I'm in a situation where this fear might knock me out of doing something.
Are you comfortable sharing what that conversation was? What you needed to hear me say?
I think it was like, I'm okay with you pushing yourself as long as you are still putting, your family first, and that basically, I don't want to be out here looking for you because you're out trying to do this thing. And I want you to be self-aware and not push yourself too hard, but it is okay to push yourself because we're not going anywhere.
And it was very simple. I remember like we were having this conversation and you were like, I just need to know that you're not going to leave me if I work more.
Yeah.
And I got frustrated and I was like, of course I'm not going to leave you. What do you mean? I'm never going to leave you. I'm not going to leave you. And you were like, you don't understand. I need to hear you say the words. I need to hear you say, I will not leave you if you work more.
Yeah.
And I had to say the words, I will not leave you if you work more. And it didn't occur to me until you said that you needed to hear those words coming out of my mouth so that you could refer back to it.
Yeah, I need that.
Yeah.
I need that.
And after you heard those words, you really
I felt good taking off because I know you got my back.
Yeah.
And like I know you have it anyway, but it's so good to hear that.
Yeah.
And so to be able to like now in the middle of all of that, to be able to stop and reflect on the good of things.
Yeah.
That felt so good to me. I realized how transformed I was. I realized that I wasn't losing parts of myself and I was actually gaining things.
Yeah.
And like that feeling felt so damn good that I want to make sure that I'm giving myself that on a regular basis.
I love that. What can I do as your partner to make sure you're doing that?
Ooh, you know what? I want to say nothing because it's so personal.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's just so personal. Like even if you reminded me, like, are you taking the time? It's gonna feel like like
I'm nagging
I gotta do
you.
it. Yeah. So just keep showing up the way you show up every day, and like you're giving me things to reflect on and be happy and like that.
Would it help for me? This is something you do for me that I love. You always point out for me the progress that I've made that I didn't realize that I made. Maybe I try to do that.
I was gonna say you do that.
Yeah.
You totally do that.
Yeah.
So
I do.
yeah.
I'll keep doing that though.
I was gonna say more of that. Yeah.
I'll do more of that. I love that for you. I just want to say, and today is Steph's birthday, y'all. It's Steph Day.
Birthday
You're not
man.
going to be watching this on Steph Day, but we're recording this on Steph's birthday. And I actually feel like this is a great time to say this. You have done nothing but evolve since the moment that I met you. You've done nothing but reflect and grow and transform and become better. And I hope that with this exercise of like acknowledging yourself, you realize that this is innate in you. Like you don't have to do this thing where you're constantly criticizing yourself to grow. You're going to do it because that's who you are. Yes. And happy birthday.
I received that, and thank you. It's a beautiful life. It's a beautiful life, and I'm glad to be here. But I'm glad to be here with you.
Yes, I love you.
I love you too, babe.
All right. I think that
we did the thing. Yeah. A little mushy, guys. All right. Let's wrap it up for the good people.
Yeah, let's wrap it on up. Okay. Steph, I think you're good at pulling out our gems. So
Yeah.
give us, what were your conclusions from today?
So the biggest topic, love and freedom, right?
Yeah.
We came to the conclusion that power and freedom in your relationship, they actually can coexist. But I think it's underlying trust. Like,
Yes.
I trust that you're not going to abuse your power.
Yes.
And like once I do agree to give you some sort of power, like I have the freedom to agree to give you that.
Yes.
And then we also talked about domination and domination and freedom, but those two cannot coexist.
Yes. Domination and love.
And love, sorry. Yeah, domination
Yes.
and love.
Domination and
cannot
love
coexist.
cannot exist in the same place. And then I'm sure that y'all have some thoughts about that. I'm curious to see what y'all think about the parenting part. How are you dominating or being dominated in your relationship, and what you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
Share that with us. I'm really curious to hear folks' thoughts on that. And yeah, do some thinking around that. Break that down.
Yeah, I want to see those comments.
All right, baby. I'm scared to ask. I'm scared to ask. But what is your song for this episode?
My song for this episode is based around freedom, okay? And it is by the great poet, Future Hendrix.
Oh my God.
And the other great poet, Drizzy Drake Rogers.
Oh my, really?
The title of this song is Jersey. And the lyrics go, you do what you want when you're popping. You do what you want when you're popping. You do what you want when you're popping.
You pop
You
it.
do what you want when you're popping.
popping.
Yes.
Didn't see that last one coming.
All about freedom, baby. It's feel yourself enough to know that, like, hey, you do what you want out here in the world, and the power is yours. You gotta make the choices that are best for you.
I love that. I love the lesson from the song.
You know, it's
Not
deep. You got to
necessarily
dig
the
a little
artist.
bit. You got to dig.
You gonna pull the gym out or something. But okay, so my song rec is a fun one. I don't know who it's by, and that might be like unforgivable because it's probably a big person. But the song that came up when we were talking about this episode for me was "You Don't Own Me."
Oh yeah, you were telling me about this.
And don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to say. Somebody's singing along with me. That's a big song. So that is the thing for me. Especially, I talked in my walk about like previously being in an emotionally, mentally abusive relationship. And I hope that some people listening to this will understand too that like someone can bid for power, but you do not have to answer the bid. Because nobody owns us, baby.
That's powerful. I love that.
Thank you. Message. All right, let's close this thing out.
All right. I appreciate y'all for coming to kick it with us in our living room for a little while.
Yes. Thank you so much, Love Fam. Until next time. Peace.
We got a vibe that disagreements won't destroy. We go back like vinyls and Polaroid.